Today we're going to have some fun creating some watercolour flowers, just perfect for beginners. So we're going to create some daisies, some pansy-style flowers and some heather Buddleia type blooms, and I'm going to be working on cold pressed watercolour paper by myself in conjunction with Bockingford. And we'll start with the pansy style flowers. Really simple. I'm just going to be using my three primary colours. We have Phthalo blue, Quinacradome magenta and Hansa yellow. I'll also use a little bit of Friends Grey and burnt sienna for the centre stamen. I've just got some yellow paint here. Adding some water. I want this to be kind of like a single cream consistency, not too thin, not too thick. And I'm simply working on dry paper, going to place one. I'm using a size 12 brush, 2, 3 little dots of paint. Now you want these to be kind of raised off the surface of the paper. Then I'm just going to take clean water on my brush. I'm going to dab off any excess so I don't create a puddle, and I'm going to creep up towards the dot. So I'm bringing the water on, I'm touching into the dot and creating my petal shape. Let me do that again. So clean water, tap off the excess, creep into that dot, wiggling your brush around to create an abstract petal shape, and turn it once more, clean water, take off the excess, in we go. You want to touch into that globule of watercolour paint that you've put down, and there we have our first 3 petals. I'm going to go again and add some more petals, so into my yellow, I'm going to put another blob of yellow there, another globule of yellow there, and I'm going to go again. Clean brush. Now it doesn't matter if the petals touch, this is abstract gentle flowers that we're creating. Clean water, just going to make that bobble a bit bigger. Clean water, tap the excess on your tissue, creep up, touch into that bobble of paint and just let it flow out, and you get this really gentle, I don't know which way's up, gentle little petals being created. And now I want to have some fun with that. I could leave it yellow, but I want to take these and get this kind of greeny tinge that I got in my previous ones. So I've got some green mixed up here, just yellow and blue. I'm going to take that a little bit stronger, a bit more yellow, a bit more blue. Touch more yellow, there we go. And now I'm just going to touch in, wet into wet, just touching some green in around the edges of my petals, just to create 2 tones. And don't worry too much about what happens, let the paint explode into the wet paint underneath. I'm just using the tip of my brush to nudge it around, and I'm going to leave those to dry on their own. Let's do another one, a bit more yellow. We're going to come up here. I do like things in threes. 1, 2, 3 balls of paint raised from the surface. This time I'm going to do it slightly different. Let's do it differently. I'll show you another way of doing it. I'm going to take my green paint and pop it in with the yellow bauble. So I've got green and yellow both together. Clean water, get rid of the excess. Come into that bobble of paint and just let it explode and create your leaf shape, your petal shape. Woo! Runaway paintbrush. We go again, touch into that globule and create your pretty petals. So we're using 2 colours at once. And see what we get. And then I'm going to go again. 1, 2, More spots. I don't think I can fit one in there. And some green spots over the top. So 2 colours in my spots. Clean water, tap on tissue. Touch into your bobble and create your shape. As I say, it doesn't matter whether your petals touch or you leave a gap between. We're just having fun creating our flowers. Turn that back up the right way. Okay, I'm going to go a bit darker green on my next one. So I'm going to use my blue and yellow again. At this time I'm going to add a little bit of Quinacradome magenta to make my green a little bit more natural looking. Adding that 3rd primary colour will give you a lovely natural green. I want that a little bit stronger, a bit more pigment in my puddle. There's my green. Add a bit of magenta. We get that lovely sagey colour green. That's gone too far the other way. We'll get there eventually. Oh, that's nice. Touch of blue. It's such fun mixing your own colours. There we go. Okay, and we're going to go again. Doesn't matter which colour you put down first. So if we want to, we can go in and put our little bobbles of paint. Just touch down with the tip of your brush to create your little bauble of paint. Then my yellow over the top. There we go. Clean water, in we go. Into the bobble and then just create the shape of your petal. These would make absolutely perfect little gifts for people. Pop them in a small frame or do them on cards to cheer people up. And then I'm going to go again in between the petals. I'm going to try and fit one in there. Doesn't matter, I just touched into that leaf and the paint's run into the other leaf. That petal, I keep calling them leaves. That's absolutely fine. We're just creating patterns that look like flowers in a really simple and easy way that all of you can achieve at home. There we go. I'm just going to make that a little bit wider. Make those petals a bit bigger with some water and nudge it out. How pretty are those? And the interesting thing will be when they dry. You can see here that it looks like I have a green outline around the edge, and that's just where the paints have reacted and dried against the dry paper to give you this crisp outline. So now we want to put some stamens in the middle. I'm going to go for burnt sienna. Now you want to time this right, and you want your paint very thick for this. You don't want too much water on your brush or in a puddle. So I'm going straight from the pan, and I'm just going to touch in with the tip of my brush into the centre, onto the white paper and into the colour of the flowers in the middle there. It will bleed ever so slightly, but because we're using the paint nice and thick, it's not going to burst out and ruin your flowers. And if you wanted your stamens a bit darker, do the same again with Friends Grey or Paynes Grey. Go straight from your pan or your tube and just touch in with the very tip of your brush into the middle of your flower. They are just delightful. I love the yellow and green. I just think they're fresh and zesty. Okay, so all we need to do now is add our stems. So I'm going to go into my green. I'm using my size 6 brush now, a bit smaller. Now you can wait for your flowers to dry, or what I like to do is start a little bit under the flower and bring my stem in on the point of the brush, dragging through, create your stem. I'm going to go into this one. I'm going to have it coming out just here, peeking out from under the flower. And then the one at the top, I'm going to go from there to there, touched into that flower, but it doesn't matter. add in some more interest to the petal, and then follow that line. Where would it peek out again? And bring my stem to meet the others. And now for a very, very simple leaf shape. So touching in, this time my starting point is at the side of the flower, push down and lift off. I'm going to put a touch more yellow in my green. That's better. I'm going to turn around the other way, touch into your stem on the point of the brush, push through, lift up. Let's do another one here. Start at the stem, push through, lift up. And you'll get that wonderful pattern in the leaf. I really like the colour green I've just mixed. So I'm going to go back over my stem with this green. Fabulous. Perfect little flowers for you to stick in a frame or paint on a card or cut out with a decal edge and apply to a card. Let's do some a different colour now. As I say, these are so simple. You can definitely do these at home, so have a go. So now I'm going to take my magenta, beautiful magenta, and I'm going to add a little bit of blue to turn them slightly darker, a bit more purpley. Oh, I like that, a bit more magenta. Beautiful colour, love that. Okay, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to pick up our dots of paint, pop them on with the tip of your brush, space them out a bit, clean water, touch on your tissue, come into your dot and create your petal shape. Just randomly bounce your brush around, have some fun creating your flower shape. Now, what I've done here is I've made these very light. So if you want them darker, we're going to go back to our paint and we're just going to touch into that middle again and let that paint burst out into the water we've already put down. Let's go again. I'm going to put a bit more pink in this time. We have another dot there, another dot there, and we'll try a third dot that side. In we go, touch in and create your petal. Really don't worry if they touch. Just using the water on my brush this time, keep that paint flowing. And again, I may want to change this colour. Which way up was I, guys? Do you remember? Was I that way? Doesn't matter. I'm going to take some blue and add into my purple, and I'm going to go into the middle point of the petals and just drop that in and let it do its own thing, let it bleed out. I'm just going to change the shape of the edge of my petals a little bit with some water. There we go. Let's create another one. Maybe do it in reverse. This time I'm going to put my blue. Let's just go with blue on its own. Can you see my mixing palette? There we go. Blue. 1, 2, 3. Clean water. Just give that brush a little wiggle, a little jiggle, and create, let it fan out. And all we're doing is encouraging that paint to bleed out into the water that we're putting down. Watercolour is really obedient. It just loves water and it seeks it out. It follows it very obediently. And blue again. 1, 2, 3. Water. Touch into the dot. Fan it out. Touch into the dot and fan it out. Wonderful. Now again, I want these blue ones, these lighter ones, to be darker. So I'm just picking up a bit more blue paint, popping it into the centre of the flower, tapping it up and down a little bit, encouraging it to move in the paint underneath, the water underneath. And we have our blue flower. I'm going to go one more. I do like things in freeze. I'm going to turn that up that way, I think. And we're going to come over here. 1, 2, 3. If you evenly space them out, you should have room to get 6 petals in. Water, in we come. Touch in and let it burst free into the water. A bit more pink. 1, 2, 3. There we go. I do love this way of creating flowers. It's so spontaneous and quick to do. You can create a personalised gift for somebody at home in no time at all. Okay, now it comes to putting the stamens in. This time I'm going to go for the grey. So I'm going straight into my grey, which is nice and thick from the pan. I'm going to start on the white paper that I can see and touch in the middle, touch into the colours, the base of the petals. And just let that bleed out a little bit. It adds to the painting, I think, when you get some of that centre colour bleeding along those petals. So it starts out looking not like very much at all. Once you add that centre colour in, they burst into life. Moving back to my size 6 brush. Now you can wait for the flowers to dry if you want to before you put your stems on. I'm going to take this bit more blue. Just playing with my green, see what shade of green I want this time. Let's go for something a bit brighter. A bit more yellow in there. Lovely. So you don't need to go out and buy a fast range of colours, guys. I teach all my lessons based on these 3 primaries with the addition of burnt sienna and Paynes grey, Friends grey. Here we go. I'm going to come just below that petal so I don't touch the water and slowly pull down. This one I'm going to come in this gap here. Head towards that flower, maybe a little bit of green there, maybe a little bit of green there, and then come the other side. And then this one, I'm going to come in between the petals, curve it round. And then remember our leaf shape, we're going into the stem, push down, pull up. Into the stem. I'm going to turn this round, touch into the stem, push through and up. And I'm going to have one up here somewhere, I think. Into the stem, push through and lift up. How beautiful is that? Okay, let's have a look at our green flowers. Let's bring them back. Wowzers. Just look what's happened here. Exactly what I told you would happen and what happened on my earlier one. Around the very edge, can you see where the paint has met the edge of the paper? And because we've mixed 2 colours together, it separates back out again, giving you this wonderful, wonderful effect. And hopefully we'll get the same thing happen on our pink and purple ones too. So I'm going to pop them to one side and we're going to start on another page. And this time I want to show you the daisy. Back to my size 12 brush. And we're going to start with the flower heads. Very simple. You can do this, guys. I'm just going to start with the yellow for my first one on its own. A nice single cream consistency again. Bit of water in there. Similar to the leaf shape, we're going to start on the tip of our brush and come out to the side, pushing through a little bit to create the shape of the petal. Just pushing through and out to the side, a little curve. And then I'm going to come back in between these petals on the tip of my brush and just bring some smaller petals through the gaps. Maybe have another one over that side. So we've got our petals radiating out. And this one I'm just going to leave yellow. The next one I'm going to add a little bit of a little bit of magenta into my yellow to turn it a bit more orangey. I'm going to come in again. I'm going to start right next to this flower, tip of the brush, push through, leave gaps between your petals, starting at the same point with each stroke. Really simple for you to do at home. And then come in between on the tip of the brush, filling out that flower head. I'm going to go one more. I do like my freeze. I'm adding a bit more yellow back in to the puddle, a bit of water. We're going to do another one just here, out to the side from a central point. Just using the shape of the bristles of the brush to create your petals, and then coming back in between on the tip of the brush. Now let's have some fun mixing colours. I'm going to take a little bit of my Quinacradome magenta, add some water in your palette, and I'm going to drop it in at the top of my petals. And just let that paint run and do its own thing. Okay, you can pick your paper up if you want to and tilt it so it runs down the petals. And a little bit less this time. I'm going to add some in this one. A couple of spots of the magenta. And just let it run through the paint. Tip your paper around, have some fun with it. Now we're going to put our stamen in the middle, like we did with our pansies. I want you to take your burnt sienna, nice and creamy, starting with the first flower we painted, creamy paint so it doesn't blend so easily. And we're just going to do the centre of the flower. We imagine this flower is tilting towards us. Pop that in. Some of it might run down your petals, but that's all part of the creation of your flowers. Look at that. Really simple. Again, like I did with my previous flowers, I'm also going to take some Friends Grey, nice and creamy again. And I'm going to just add a couple of dots right at the centre of the middle of the flower. And then we're going to put our stems on. Really cheerful, gorgeous little paintings that you can create at home with just 3 colours. Just when you're doing your stems, come in on the tip of your brush. Whee! And then your leaves touch into the stem, push through and pull through. Touch into the stem, touch down, push through, lift up again. Touch down, push through, lift up again. You can even add, I'm going to add a bit of yellow to my green, make a lighter colour. I'm going to make one of these petals, one of these leaves a bit lighter. Adding some yellow in for interest. And there we go. Our beautiful, happy, sunny flowers. Okay, I'm going to pop that to one side with the other ones. And I'm going to bring back the flowers we did earlier again. They're nearly dry. And look, oh look what we have created here. They're absolutely gorgeous flowers. Now you can see the beauty of layering the paint and dropping wet into wet, because you get the breakout of the colours as it starts to dry. The kind of heather, buddleia type flower, another really easy one that you can create at home. So I'm going to go back to my big size 12 brush. I'm going to use the pink to start with, as I've got it here already. You want the paint to have water, you don't want it totally thick. Now with the tip of my brush, I'm going to start at the top of the bud of the flower, and I'm literally dotting on a pattern of dots. Coming down, getting wider, and then getting narrower towards the base. And we'll do that again. Just using the tip of the brush to create your petals on the flowers, getting wider as we come down. You can just do them as dots, or you can open them up a little bit, put a bit more pressure on the brush. And then let's do a purple one in the back. So I'm going to add some blue to my magenta. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, let's pop one in the middle. 1, 2. Just dotting, having fun, just thinking about that shape of the flower we're creating. Coming down where the stem's going to be. Back to a point. So I'm going to take that a little bit higher. Lots of dots. Now I'm going to have some fun, and I'm going to splatter clean water from my brush onto the flowers. So load your brush up with clean water, hold it horizontal to the page, and give a little tap. Just a little tap, and go again. Whoa! Just clean water. And what's going to happen, it's random as to where the water's going to land, and those petals are going to open up and expand into the water droplets. So let it happen by random. I'm going to pop some up the top here. Just water. It's also going to break up the colour. Where it hits the water, those colours are going to lighten, and where they've not hit the water, they're going to be darker. So ideally, you need to then leave that to dry before you come through with your stem. But I'm going to be a devil. I'm going into my green. And I'm going to start at the bottom of the petals, just come in a little bit and bring my stem down. There's another flower that these look like. I'm trying to think. They come out in spring in bulbs. My mum always used to. Hyacinths. I think they look a little bit like hyacinths as well. So coming in, I don't mind if I pick up a bit of the petal colour. It's all going to add to it. And then again, this time I want longer, thinner leaves. So I'm going to stay on my point a bit longer, push through and exaggerate the length of the leaves. Maybe have 2 come off of 1. Add a bit of yellow in there for interest. Push through, take that a bit longer this time. Oh, that one I just picked up yellow just to see what happens. I'm going to pop a little bit of green over the top. I'm not sure I like that. We can experiment, and you can do that. You can have fun experimenting with your leaves. Now you know the basics. Now I'm going to go into the flower head and just define some of that stem coming up between the flowers. Just tiny little marks coming up the centre of the flower, and then a couple coming off. Just a couple of marks. You haven't got to connect every petal to the stem. just a couple of marks so it holds it together. Something else that you can do to add interest to these flowers is to screw up a little bit of tissue and just touch into your wet paint here and there and lift off a little bit of that colour. So you're getting a bit more variety, just tiny. Screw it into a tiny, tiny ball, like a pencil at the end, and just touch in and lift a tiny element of that colour off of the buds. So there we go, all of our flowers. Let's bring them all back and see which ones are your favourites. Which ones are you going to have a go at creating at home? I hope you've enjoyed creating your little blooms of happiness. Thank you for joining me. Hit the subscribe button and I will see you soon. Bye for now. Happy painting. Bye bye.